Do you have stacks of 6x6 patterned paper and need some fast, no scrap card making ideas? Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com and I'm here to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get making. Today I want to use a bunch of 6x6 patterned paper, but I want to use it quickly. So I am going to highlight some of the fastest templates for 6x6 patterned paper and A2 size cards that I have come up with. So all of these are linked in the video description and you can download them for free. They show you how to take a 6x6 piece of patterned paper and cut it exactly with no scraps and then turn it into an A2 size card. And today I have chosen some of my fastest templates so that if you ever just really need quick cards, or you're like, I really need to just get through some paper. Maybe if you donate cards, you're trying to like fill up a box and I just need to make a couple of more cards to fill up the box. So the ones that I picked today, and I do have some other ones in mind, but these are the first 6. I have template number 2, 9, 15, 22, 26, and 29. And you might like to write that on a sticky note and keep it with your templates. Like, oh, here's some fast ideas. Some of you have probably already developed like an idea. If you know, those of you who've used my templates for the years that I've been developing them, like, oh, these are my go-tos when I need a fast card. But I just thought I would highlight some of that, especially for those of you who are just maybe new to the templates and like, okay, how can this help me as a card maker? And so I am going to go a little bit out of order because I kind of want to start with like the trickiest one. I think it's fast, but a little tricky. And so then I can keep it like easy breezy from there. So I am going to use the Violet Studio 6x6 paper pack. I don't think these have names. They're like little code numbers on them, whatever, but I do know that a lot of Joann stores in the US are closing, and I got this many months ago, so you probably couldn't find it anyway, but I did like these, that they have only 12 sheets of pattern paper, so I'm a little sad that to see those go, because it was nice to just pick up a little bit of patterned paper and not have to commit to like a whole sheet, or sorry, a whole like, you know, pad of 30 to 40, I've seen like 48, like quite a few sheets. So 12 sheets was a nice pack size. But today, let's focus on these quick cards. So template number 22, we're working with single-sided paper. The way that I show it here was intended for double-sided patterned paper. So you're going to cut your paper to 3x6, and then I give you some specific measurements to help you cut it on the diagonal. However, you don't need to follow those specific measurements. You can kind of just, you know, think like, oh, this is about the middle, and trim your paper there. And as you can see, I wind up getting these 4 pieces. And when it's double-sided patterned paper, what I typically do is I take this bottom piece. So you see here's these 2 purple pieces, they're kind of like meant to go together. I would take this bottom piece, I'd flip it over to the other side, and then I'd have my sketch or my design as called for. However, this is single-sided paper, and so instead I cut it like it's shown here on the template or sketch. Sorry, I lose my words here. And I could take these 2 pieces, and if it's non-directional pattern paper, I can combine them into the design. And then I can take the same thing with the top 2. They get combined into the design. The other alternative, I think I got them mixed up now, but is you can take the opposite ones and they'll work as well to recreate the design. So it can be done with single-sided non-directional patterned paper in that way. And as you can see, we're pretty much, that's it. That's the whole card. It's that fast. I can take time to cut some mats or not. In this case, because I'm using the same paper twice, I probably will cut mats and decorate them, but we'll kind of revisit that at the end. I just want to show you how, like the process, the base process of making each of these cards, and then do quick embellishment tips at the end. All right, so now let's go back to sketch number order to keep things simple. I'm working with 6x6 paper busting template number 2. Because it's single-sided paper, Sometimes I like to just combine two patterns to add a little bit of interest. You absolutely do not have to do that. In this template, you're going to cut your 6x6 patterned paper into a 3x6 inch piece. And then you take that 3x6 inch piece. I'm holding two of them together because my paper trimmer can handle that. Please follow all manufacturer safety instructions when using a paper trimmer, and make a judgment about whether your paper trimmer can handle multiple sheets, because sometimes it will cut them a little bit uneven if you have more than one sheet. Then you take your 3x6 inch paper, and on the 6-inch side, you cut it 3.5 inches. And your card is basically complete because you're going to take this smaller piece, layer it on top of the larger piece, and you have your card design. We can cut mats to go around it. I like to cut my mats a 1/4 inch bigger, so that would be the way to add to the card and embellish, which again, we can revisit at the end of the video. And I'll have 2 cards with this. Now what's kind of nice is if I don't want to make too many cards, like if I don't want 4 cards from these 2 sheets where they'll be kind of similar. And in fact, what's kind of nice is right now, the 2 cards are technically different because they have 2 different background papers. Like in foreground papers, they've been kind of, swapped. I can take this 3x6 inch piece and use it on my next fast card design, which is template number 9. Well, actually, it doesn't. Does it work for template number 9? It will. You do have to kind of turn it on its side like that. And template number 9 is better with non-directional pattern paper. So we'll skip ahead. I thought I was going to go in order, but I'm going to go with like the way to use paper the fastest. So we'll skip ahead to template number 15. And that tells you to take your 3x6 inch piece and cut it to 5.5. So on the 6-inch side, we're going to cut 1/2 inch off, be 5.5. Now, this little piece here is meant to go across with a cardstock mat. If I mix it up, I can go like this and like that. And that's the basic card design. You're going to place that down the center of an A2 size card. And if you have a more solid pattern paper, you might just want to stamp a sentiment there. You might want to add a banner sentiment there, or sticker sentiment, that kind of thing. Or you can just use this as a band to ground your sentiment. And we'll take a look at those options later, but that's the basic card design as shown in the sketch. Of course, add your mats if you like. If I'm going to choose to use directional pattern paper with template number 9, I use sketch B, and I need to cut it so that it is 3 inches, so I cut the 6-inch line this way. Hope that makes sense. Kind of, you see like there's 3 purples, so I need like the top half of the paper as opposed to like the left half of the paper. And it's the same thing here with template number 29. I want the top half, not a side half. Hopefully I figured out a way to make it make sense. So here again, I'm going to combine 2 papers. I am using that same green animal paper, but this time I'm combining it with an acorn paper, and I'm going to cut the top half and bottom half separately. When I was going through and picking out my fastest templates, something I was thinking about is, well, if there's only like 2 pieces involved, that's probably a pretty fast card. This one actually has 3 pieces, but the reason I still think it's fast is because they're all the same size, and so you don't have to think too carefully about the measurements. And even if you're cutting cardstock mats, you're cutting them all the same size. So I consider it on the faster side of my sketches. And so I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut it to 2 by 3 inches. It's already 3 inches this way, so I'm just cutting it at 2. And this one, there are 2 versions of the sketch. There's one where you can just take 3 pieces of directional patterned paper and layer them together on a card base. So it looks like that. You can, of course, put cardstock mats. If you're working with some non-directional pattern paper because your paper is double-sided, or here I've cut 2 different kinds, you can also make this version of the card where you are going to put them in this arrangement instead. And then I've taken advantage of some directional patterned paper, but not all, or the opposite way, then the second card, I've done this one, and now I have this, and I have these 2 pieces of directional pattern paper, I can still make the same template. I'm just gonna put it, I'm gonna turn the card on its side. So hopefully that makes sense. So you can pick whichever design you like. I kind of prefer a design that mixes patterned paper, so I think I will use number 9, but I wanted to show you that, there's different ways of arranging it. And that's generally true about my templates. Like, I've shown you generally one way to use the pieces, and my highlight is how to cut them without any scraps, and then give you an idea, but take it as a jumping off point. Like, you can think about what else you can do. And some of these too are also great for scraps. Like, say you had been card making in the past and you wound up with some 3x6 inch strips. A lot of my templates will take advantage of those, and for some reason that does happen. I have found that I wind up with that. But let's look at sketch number 29, because it similarly likes that top half and bottom half, and it says that you need a 2 1/4 by 3 inch piece, and then what's left will be 3 3/4. And the idea would be that you would place the larger piece as the front focal point of the card, giving you a clear area to put an embellishment and a sentiment. And I would have these 2 versions of the card. Sketch number 26 is very similar to sketch number 15, and they're both sketches that I like to use when I have a pattern paper that I love a lot. Like, I want to show off a good amount of it. I don't want to cut it into lots of teeny tiny pieces. It's also great for larger scale patterned papers because you are cutting one small piece, but you're leaving one piece really large. And so we're going to cut it again to 3x6 inches. And then we're cutting it to 5 1/4 on the 6 inch side, which will leave us with a 3/4 inch piece. This 3/4 inch piece can go like that on the design. Now here, that's probably not what I want. So in theory, I could use another piece of paper and combine them, but then this would still be used on the second card. So that's why I didn't cut 2 pieces for it. What I have done and can suggest is that when you're working with single-sided paper, is you could just turn it over and use the white side. We would stamp on a white banner all the time. And so, it might feel like a waste, like, oh, you're not using the pattern side of it, but to me, that's okay. I'm using most of the patterned paper, and I'm not, instead of just putting this back in my stash and hoping that I find a perfect, use for it one day, I've instead really taken advantage of a beautiful patterned paper, shown it off to, good effect, and didn't leave myself a scrap because I just turned it over and stamped on it. So let's take a look at the cards that we can complete quickly with these sketches. So we had 22, and I did put mats on these, which took a little bit of extra time, but because I just cut them 3 1/4 inch wide, and then I trimmed them without measuring, I just kind of looked at the corners, it made it a little bit quicker. I used some stickers that are also from Violet Studio. I didn't like all the stickers in the pack, but there were some really cute animals that I wanted to use on these cards today. And I used some sentiments that I found, I think most of them were from YTFAN, because they were little punny hello Dearie sentiments for this and some other things like that. And so this is sketch number 9, which, as we discussed, you can change the orientation, kind of mix it up to better suit your needs. There's a couple of different ways. I also show 2 different sketches. And then 15, simply turning that piece of patterned paper over and stamping my sentiment directly on it. Another one from YTFAN to kind of go with the fox. Have a very amazing day. And this is sketch number 2, quick and easy. Same sentiment. And sketch number 29, which, as you can see, they're pretty similar in terms of the general format. It's just one gives you a bigger focal point than the other. So this green piece of paper compared to the 2 cards, but very similar design, just depending on how much room you want for that focal point versus the background image. And then finally, we have sketch number 26. I actually used both pieces of paper that in the collection that look like this and made some extra cards. and then I turned the paper over, the patterned paper over, and used the white side again to complete this. So that way I wouldn't have to worry about scraps. Obviously you could do something else with the pattern paper. You could put it inside the card and then use just a different white strip, or use some colored cardstock and stamp your sentiment on, or something like that. But that's how I chose to make these into quick cards without any patterned paper scraps today. And I did have a little sticky note on there that says squirrel, bear, rabbit, mice jokes, because I wanted to mention, since I was working with sort of a woodland theme, that over at jesscrafts.com you can find some jokes that you can print out and add to your cards. So if you're making some fast cards that you want to donate but you're not sure what to put inside the cards, some places that you can donate to jokes might be appropriate. So some places don't ask for anything inside the cards, etc. You don't have to make your own judgment calls, contact the place that you're donating. But I did want to call out that resource so that whether you're sending some jokes to friends, kids that you know, that kind of thing, and you think the jokes would work out well for them, or if you're donating them and the organization would accept that, that might be something that you want to check out. I'll leave you a link to that in the video description. If you found this video helpful, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for template links. There might be a few product links, but mostly to get those templates, or of course you can purchase them in the Etsy shop if you don't want to download them individually. See you in the next video.